All right, welcome back. My name is Jonathan. This is the Haystack, and we're going over the solar eclipses and what that means and why it actually may have to do with Adam-Ondi-Ahman. I actually had found, so we know that it makes the Tav mark here and that it makes the Aleph mark, correct? So we've seen that in other channels, but what I haven't heard is this. So I'm going to read from Gal Ayin. I'll put it in the description. This is talking about the Hebrew letters Tav. Impression, the seal of creation. The Zohar states the Tav makes an impression of the Ancient of Days. The Ancient of Days refers to the sublime pleasure innate within the crown, the will of divine emanation. So we know, for us, we have modern revelation that tells us that the Ancient of Days is Adam, or Michael, the archangel, but Adam, the first man. The impression is the secret of simple faith in God's ultimate omnipresence, the infinite present, in the finite, for there is none like unto him. The conclusion of the above quotation from the Zohar. Right. This faith passes in inheritance from generation to generation, from world to world. The Malkut or Malchut means kingdom of the higher world, linked to Keter, which means crown of the lower world. The Tav, the final letter of the alphabet, the alphabet, corresponds to Malkut, kingdom. The final divine power in the secret of your kingdom is the kingdom of all worlds. The impression of the Tav is the secret of the power that links worlds, generations together. Oh my goodness, guys. Is this not what we are doing with gathering scattered Israel on both sides of the veil? Is this not what we are the purpose of Adam-Ondi-Ahman is a gathering place? Not to mention, look at this location of where this is being gathered. So first off, we have Kirtland up here. It's just outside the range of the 2024 eclipse. 2024 eclipse is also just barely outside the range of Adam-Ondi-Ahman itself. So it crosses right in between. But the 2017 did go across. So what's significant about this location is, and just hear it out, the Heartland model. This is the gathering place down here, the southern tip of Illinois. There's Hopewell, mounds, and armament defenses built all around this section. It's just amazing. Amazing fortification that's been set in with all the mounds and everything. And so there's a waterway here also. And so it's been depicted as the southern tip. You have mounds all across. And this would have been during the time of Laconius. So King Laconius, the Nephites, gathers people to a center place away from Gadiantans, right? So this is Nephites, Lamanites coming together away from the Gadiantans, and they come to a center place. And if you remember, we had a letter from, was it Mormon or Moroni, Captain Moroni, who was saying, "Hey, Laconius, what the heck is?" No, no, no. Oh, I'm mixing that up with another. Mixing that up with another story. Okay. But what we have is everyone coming to a center place. Coincidentally, we have Palmyra up here, Nauvoo over here, and then Adam-Ondi-Ahman Gosh, where is Adam-Ondi-Ahman? Feel like it's over here somewhere. Have to wait for these to come up. Well, Adam-Ondi-Ahman. Type it in real quick. Oh man, I was way off. Right up here. So Adam-Ondi-Ahman is right up here. And the gathering place was down here. And we know that Adam-Ondi-Ahman was a place of first inheritance of Adam once he was cast out of the garden. And that this isn't necessarily Jackson County. I think it may have been Jackson County back then, but today, Jackson County, I think, is a little bit further out. But this is west, and the whole gathering place out here. And if you go with the Heartland model, I'm not saying you have to, but I'm just saying it's worth noting this is a coincidence that this up in these areas would be the land of Zarahemla. And anyways, I'm not going to get into that because everyone's going to go have different models. Even the Heartland models are completely different. And for the record, my thinking on the Heartland model and the Mesopotamian, all that stuff, Yucatan, all of that. I think that there was interactions all over here. I think the main core of the Book of Mormon takes place through here. However, Samuel the Lamanite, I wouldn't doubt if he was coming from around anywhere south of here. Because what we do know with the Anthan script is it's been translated by a couple people. Some people say that the Anthan script is exactly what the Ojibwe language, written language is, and that's found up here, the Ojibwe. However, their history brings them from the south as well, and that there's also stories of similar to the Jaredites coming in turtle shells and barges coming into the area. Anyways, there is a man, I can't recall his name at the time, but he translated everything using Egyptian, because we know that the Reformed Egyptian, the language of the Nephites, is the language of the Jews written in the Egyptian. And the Jews didn't have a numerical system. They had to borrow from whatever area that they were a part of. However, this person who translated the Anthan script now, and he actually says that it's a forward to the book of Mosiah, and it gives a lot of dates. It uses a numerical structure that abridges a lot of information into a small amount, a small area. So it uses a numerical pattern or structure, but in a language of the Egyptians, or in the writing of the Egyptians. But you got to think that all this has been mixed together, and they're kind of making the best of what they have. That in the Book of Mormon, they're like, well, I'm not so good at writing this, or our language, it's so different. They're admonished for not using or keeping the writings of Samuel the prophet. Samuel, a Lamanite, coincidentally, at the beginning of before Joseph Smith, there was also a Samuel, a Native American, who was also a Native American missionary, comes out of Dartmouth College, and he basically does what Samuel the Lamanite did. So a lot of antis will use that as the motive, but that's another story. But Samuel the Lamanite did bring with him a lot of writings. They're admonished for not keeping it with them But I would think that if it uses the Mayan script, which uses heavily a numerical structure system and date system, but it communicates a whole lot more information in a smaller amount. If that was combined with what they had existing, this would be the aspect of it that would be difficult to understand, the writings of Samuel. But they're told to write down what Samuel said. But it seems like the the whole writing structure of the Book of Mormon is a combination of all these different things, and what it ends up looking like is the written Ojibwe language, which everyone tends to basically ignore. Anyways, and we have no idea if all this was connected. There's some accounts that say that the city of Zion with Enoch was in the Gulf of Mexico somewhere. We know that the Mexican groups that the groups that came down to found Mexico have a unique history of building upon a city upon the water and having a sign of an eagle with a serpent in its mouth landing on a cactus. But this happens far after the time of the Book of Mormon. And if you look at the Native American histories, it seems like there were ebbs and flows of them even being led by God still. Just not recorded in the Book of Mormon, not the same account, and that they're mixed in with a variety of different peoples. Anyways, I just wanted to put that out there. And now go back to the impression, so the seal of creation. And we know that from the book of Revelation that we're to have that the sixth angel does not go and destroy the earth without placing the seal upon the saints first. But then there's also a seal or a mark like the mark of Cain upon the wicked. And what we basically understand this to be is the seal is our endowment, our temple covenants. Not so much that we've done it and we checked all the boxes and by works we are saved. It's or by that we do our own salvation, but more the fact that we live the covenants that we make. This hypocephalus, essentially like a clay seal. All the things that would be on a tomb, all abridged into a small thing to be placed into the head of someone who has died. Here, you see order of heaven. You see the four quarters of the earth. Notice how they're upside down as if they're in the underworld, and that they're in a mummy form, saying that this is of the dead. Now think of the keys, the priesthood keys, which we use in the temple to seal on earth and in heaven, and gather from the four quarters of heaven. Just as we gather from the four quarters of the earth with our missionary work, we gather from the four quarters of heaven with temple ordinances and proxy work for the dead. So we'll be saviors on Mount Zion. Now, if we look at Messiah ben Joseph, back to Messiah ben Joseph, one of four messianic figures to come into play. Four carpenters, as it's told. Here, the roles of the four craftsmen are as follows. Elijah will be the herald of the eschaton, or the end of days. If necessary, Messiah ben Joseph will wage war against the evil forces and die in combat with the enemies of God and Israel. It's said that this is the beginning of the battles and war of Armageddon. The battle at Megiddo, right? Megiddo is an actual location, Gog of Magog, that this is a prolonged period. And so that war would have commenced with the falling of Moshiach ben Yosef. However, we know that this work has continued. And there's many rabbis who look and say, actually, it's even in here further down, that the work is continued by Ephraim, the work and legacy of Ephraim, which many rabbis say came up here to the UK and made their habitation over here, and how the US itself has been a help, especially for Israel, but also for the restoration. Now, this is the gathering place. This is where the X is actually making the mark, the Aleph and the Tav. And this is bringing up the Ancient of Days, although that they have a different interpretation for what the Ancient of Days is. We see it as Adam. And it talks about the being sealed to the Lord. And it talks about judgment. It's a bringing of judgment. Here it mentions the tribe of Dan because Dan is over judgment. Salvation. It mentions variety of worlds, physical world, primordial world. The sign on the forehead of Cain. The natural law and codes of life. The music of creation. Aren't we to have the song of redeeming love? The book of Revelations. Sign of righteousness. This, the divine power, the continuation present in the end, the advantage of light which shines from darkness, the last letter of the account of creation, rectification, the seal of truth. Number 400. That's actually significant that it mentions 400, because it's been 400 years of colonization of Ephraim in this nation, essentially. 200 years of since the restoration. What's significant is 400 years of exile in Egypt. It's said that Israelites found safety in Egypt because of Joseph, son of Jacob. Yet they fell into being subject to the Egyptians until they were cast out by God through Pharaoh into their own land and had their 40 years. What's significant here is we've had 400 years of us in this nation, similar to the time in the Book of Mormon. There are Gadianton robbers controlling government. Our prophet has asked us to be a peaceful people and to come together, be unified, one in Christ. And it's funny because Laconius is the only Greek name in the Book of Mormon, or Greek rooted, seemingly. What that actually means is, in the Greek, it means getting to the point. It's like, get to the point. This, like, I'm cutting out all the fluff. This is what the point really is. Funny enough that it's at the point of this state, Illinois, right at that meeting point where so much of our church history is, right where the mark is. So I wanted to review some of that with you. I wanted to do it very quickly. I'm going to leave all these links so you could actually read it by yourselves. I didn't want to take up so much time reading, but I want to give the overall impression and spark the interest for you to go ahead and investigate for yourself. This is something I think we'd benefit a lot from looking into. I know they have a different interpretation because it's a different religion. We have modern revelation, which gives us clarity, but this will give us context as understanding these former and existing traditions. Because this is talking about a return and judgment and worlds and exaltation, in a sense. And the fact that we have that mark occurring over here. I asked a group in Facebook if who was going to the eclipse. There's a lot going to San Antonio because that's where the olive mark is. We ourselves are trying to plan a trip out here, but not sure if we'll how plausible it actually is. The olive mark also this Oc- October will be coming through here. In October and April, this is all surrounding conference, 6 months apart, 7 years from the original. So it's very exciting. I think it's worth noting. There's lots of people who have gone into detail about this. I went and talked about a few different things for a little bit more context. And I hope this is beneficial for you. Please check it out and tell me what you think. Take care.